Um, Okay, I'm really excited to be talking to you all about this opportunity. Before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping and talk about the student code of conduct and just remind folk. If you go to the next slide, Laura. The university seeks to provide a supportive environment that is conducive to learning, the pursuit of truth, the exchange of knowledge, and the intellectual development of students and the general good of society. I just want to remind students of this, and we will move on to the next slide. As we did, we all introduced ourselves as the panelists for tonight's information session. And then, so what is the PlusOne program? Can you go to the next? PlusOne is an accelerated graduate degree program that allows students to start their master's degree while they're still undergrad students, by allowing up to 4 graduate courses to double count towards the completion of your bachelor's degree, and MS degree. Upon the completion of the BS degree, students will transition into the grad school program to complete the remaining requirements. So this is a great opportunity to be able to start your graduate work as an undergrad student and then be able to apply those courses towards your BS and MS degree. Next slide. So by being able to double count courses, financially, there is that benefit, as well as saving time to complete your BS and MS degree. And it also, more importantly, it can give you career advancement opportunities with earning an MS degree. So how do you go about choosing your PlusOne pathway? There are many options. One way is by talking with your undergrad advisor, also talking to the student ambassador and their experience, also going to the career design office here in Northeastern, also reaching out to the MS program contact, that you, for the program that you are particularly interested in, and they can provide some useful information that's to your specific career interest. Next slide, Laura. So there is obvious earning potential with an MS degree, and this slide just kind of explains it. I don't know Richard Harris, because I know you've talked about this in the past. So, and you've done a really good job at kind of talking about the benefits of the PlusOne. So
Sure. So this is a slide, as Leslie indicated, that gives you some perspective of the percentage of unemployment rate relative to degree attainment. And so at the top, you'll see achieving a doctoral degree that actually only shows a 1.1% unemployment rate over the lifetime of those individuals. And then the same continues down at the professional degree, the master's degree, the bachelor's degree. And so ultimately you see that having a degree in and of itself provides you with some insulation or protection, if you will, against unemployment as the economy shifts and industry shifts. But then what you see to the right are the impact, financial impact of your earnings as, let's say, someone who's degreed relative to someone who's not degreed. And so as you move up the academic food chain, if you will, going from a bachelor's to a master's, it does have a significant impact on your lifetime earnings. And so that impact can actually calculate into over $1 million in your lifetime earnings by securing that advanced a master's degree. Now, some will say you can pursue that degree through an employer with what they refer to as a tuition reimbursement program, but that's going to take you twice as long in order to complete that. And you have to be able to justify or satisfy the degree that you're going after with that employer. And so going through this PlusOne cuts through all of that and significantly accelerates, as you're hearing, the opportunity to earn that master's and thereby position yourself both in terms of career opportunities and financial security going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. So I think now we will be able to hear from Pratap and his experience. I think it's really good to hear from the student.
Hey guys, so I'm just going to talk a little about my journey at Northeastern. I've done 2 co-ops, first of them being in Thermo Fisher Scientific and the other one being in Voltus. And I got my undergrad degree from here in industrial engineering. I also have some global internship experiences as a production engineer at a manufacturing company. I have TA a subject for lean concepts and applications, and like I mentioned earlier, I'm the graduate student ambassador for the PlusOne program. I was in my 4th year when I found out about the PlusOne program through my academic advisor, and I genuinely thought it was a good opportunity for me because it would take me 1 less year to go to finish my master's, and I could be done with half of it as an undergrad without taking any additional classes. It's just that my general electives and some of my tech electives would double count towards it. So I met with my academic advisor, looked at different programs I could do my master's in, and finally narrowed down to engineering management because I feared that I wanted some of the business background and some managerial skills along with my engineering background. And yeah, went forward with it, and I'm graduating in a couple of months. And yeah, I've had an amazing experience up till now. And you can definitely ask me questions after the presentation's over.
Thank you, Pratap. So, yeah, so we want to show you now where you can look for the current COE +1 pathways. So, and Laura will put the link in the chat as well for folks, so you'll have it and you can bookmark it. So if you scroll down, you will see, for example, bioengineering has the little +1 button. We'll actually show the example for it's the mechanical engineering. So if we go down to mechanical engineering, and you click on the +1, yep, and you'll be able to see the different concentrations in the mechanical engineering program. So if you click on the plus, you'll be able to see what the prerequisites are that you'll need to complete as an undergrad student before you can apply for the program. And then as you scroll down, you'll be able to see the graduate course sharing, the courses that they recommend you take while you're an undergrad student. And then if you scroll down on the page further, you'll be able to see who the contacts are for the different concentrations. So this is just an example of a pathway that you could pursue. These are the program contacts for the MS program. So if these are particular areas that you are interested in, these are the contacts that you should reach out to because they are familiar with the course content and the curriculum. Give it 1 minute. We're just getting the presentation back up. Laura, would you like me to share my screen?
Sure.
Yeah.
While we're getting the new screen up, I think this is a good time just to talk about when you're thinking about the PlusOne program and thinking about the right program for you. If you're not quite sure where to go, those faculty contacts listed on the website, they're a really great place to start. I think there's a misconception too about which pathway programs, or sorry, PlusOne programs students can participate in. Sometimes it might seem natural to participate in the same program that you earned your undergraduate BS in, but that's not always the case. We're seeing more and more students take different paths. And I think that if that's something of interest to you, looking at those prerequisites, looking at the courses that you might be taking, talking to these faculty contacts, really are a good place to start. So just know you don't necessarily have to have a Bachelor of Science in mechanical engineering and you have to go into an MS in mechanical. There are different paths and we're seeing more and more students take that. So just know that is an option for you.
So what I actually gonna do, Crystal, that you mentioned that, because the COE, the webpage we were showing was just for the College of Engineering. But we actually do have a website that shows all the PlusOne pathways across all the colleges in Northeastern. And you can see how programs, I'll put it in the chat just so folks have it. Because this shows you then all the different colleges and the different pathways they have. And just like you saw in the College of Engineering webpage, it showed the undergrad degree and then the prerequisites you had to take, like you see in the sample pathway. So it's a good point, Crystal. So can we move? There we go. So as I was talking about with the course sharing, and Crystal, please feel free to jump in on this. You can, for the grad school, you can double count up to 4 courses towards your undergrad and your graduate degree. There are specific course sharing policies that vary by department. So this is why you have to work closely with your undergrad advisor to discuss how those graduate courses are going to count towards your BS degree. For the grad program, you need to follow the curriculum that's listed in the academic catalog. And when you look at the PlusOne pathways, you will see the links to that curriculum for that academic catalog. So, and I think it is important that you start your graduate coursework before your final year, so you can get the most benefit from this program. And Crystal, I don't know if you have other things you want to chime in about.
Yeah, absolutely. So minimally, students need to take at least one course that can double count from the undergrad into the graduate program. So just keep that number in mind. However, students can double count up to 4 courses. And so when Leslie was speaking about this before, that's what she meant by, time saving and the financial benefit of completing the PlusOne. Where we see students find some confusion in this is really what courses can double count and where in the undergraduate degree audit. And so, as Leslie mentioned, it's really important to be very open and communicative with your undergraduate advisor to know that you are thinking about the +1, which concentration you're thinking about, and then we can appropriately guide you from there about those double counted courses. So even if today you're not sure if you want to apply for the program, that's okay. Some of you may be earlier on in your time here at Northeastern, but it is worth mentioning to your academic advisor what your intended plans may be. And if it shifts, that's okay. But just start to have those conversations with your advisor so they can appropriately direct you to the web pages and really talk to you about your program's double counting policies.
Thank you. So some things to consider before applying. And we touched on some of this before. Is the MS degree right for you? So which MS degree and concentration are you interested in pursuing? As we mentioned, looking at the +1 pathways and those contacts, that is one place to start. If you have specific career interest, you can reach out to those faculty contacts for the MS degree because they're experts in that particular field. The other option is you can also reach out to the career design at Northeastern. And Laura can just put in the website in the chat so you have that. And being able just to talk about overall what your career goals are and how to reach those, and if the how the MS degree would fit in that plan. You can obviously talk to the undergrad advisor. You can reach out to the grad school. For the grad school, we don't have the expertise in the course content or the different degrees. Our students always work directly with those program contacts around curriculum questions. So I think it's just as it says on the slide, you should have a clear idea of your academic and career goals before applying for the master's program, because once you start to take classes that you're potentially double counting towards your BS and MS degree, those courses that you may have completed may not work with other +1 pathways. So it's trying to do the research beforehand so you have a successful experience. And I know this is just more of a suggestion. It sounds, complete a co-op is helpful because maybe that will give you direction. Also, you will be able to even maybe utilize the co-op as a resource to be able to talk about getting your MS degree and make those connections and get advice from them as well in that experience. So let's go to the next slide. So the application timeline and eligibility, it is pretty straightforward in terms of the GPA requirements and making sure that you've completed the undergraduate prerequisites, if there are any, for that particular +1 pathway. And then once you submit the application, right now it's a DocuSign form. We will then process it in the grad school and look to make sure you have met those eligibility requirements. On the form, when you submit it, you're listing the courses that you potentially will be taking to count. So towards the BS and MS degree, it's not, and you only have to list one course. Just as Crystal said, you have to at least have one course that's gonna count towards the BS and MS degree. So, but this is the timeline. So students that are finishing now in the spring are determining if they're going to come in the summer or the fall for their MS program. So I guess we'll move to the next slide. As I said, yes, it's a DocuSign application. We are moving to a new process, but that has not rolled out yet. So, but we will let people, what we will do is that information will be on the College of Engineering +1 Accelerated Masters program website. So that is where that information will be. And as we've said, we strongly recommend that you meet with your undergraduate academic advisor prior to submitting the application. And I think, as Crystal emphasized, starting the conversation sooner than later, just so your undergrad advisor knows that this is something that you're thinking about. And it will help with creating a course of study that's successful. Is there anything I missed, Crystal, in that? Okay. This is just more of an understanding of the different roles, because we have lots of different advisors, and they all do different things. So it's the undergrad academic advisor can review the +1 requirements. They can help you create the program of study, which I think is a useful tool. And they will work with you to determine which courses are eligible for double counting. The grad academic advisor, we review the applications and make the final decision. And then we'll provide academic advising for the graduate level courses related to course registration. And then the graduate faculty program advisor, or called program contact, can provide the specific information regarding course content and curriculum. And so those, and I know it says once submitted, but they are available now if you have questions about the MS +1 pathway. Okay. So class registration. You have the ability to register for grad classes. As an undergrad, there are some courses that are specific just for the +1 students. Not all grad course sections are open to +1 students. This is why looking at the course schedule when it is posted to the website is very important, just to kind of see what is available for you to take. If you've taken courses at the grad level before you've applied for the +1 program, they can be retroactively counted. These are usually the 5,000 level courses. And then it's recommended that you take no more than 2 grad courses per semester. And as we said, yes, there are exceptions where we've allowed students to take 3. And a lot of times that's because of either they're trying to finish up sooner because of a job opportunity, or they need to take the classes because they're only offered in that particular term. So those are some of the scenarios. Some of the things to consider around some of the financial implications. The one piece of advice that I can't emphasize enough is please talk to Student Financial Services to discuss any implications of enrolling in a +1 program. Because if you have any kind of scholarships or financial aid, it's very different from the undergrad to the graduate level. They have different eligibility requirements. And +1 students are not eligible for the double Husky 25% tuition scholarship. I don't know if Crystal or Richard have anything to say about this or want to add anything.
I just might add that this is really important. This is the planning piece that's really important, right? And so the double Husky, I think, has some really great benefits. At the end of the day, the student will be earning the same exact degree, a master's of science in whichever program. It's just the pathway into the graduate program. So the courses are the same, the expectations are the same. It's just that financial piece of it. My suggestion is, work with student financial services based off of the classes that you have taken for double counting. If you only have one course that you may be double counting, maybe weigh out the pros and cons of doing the double Husky versus the +1. Only you know what's right for you. What are your motivators? What are the factors that contribute to you earning your education? And so for some students like myself, when I was going to grad school, the financial piece was really important. For others, it may be time. And so you just have to figure out for yourself what makes the most sense for you.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is once you're accepted into a graduate program and you then matriculate in that graduate program, that can provide you with eligibility for applying to graduate fellowships or scholarships at the master's level. So that's can be external to Northeastern, though. Let me just say that those graduate fellowships or scholarships can be in organizations that will provide support based on different identities, different ways that students may select to show that they are bringing something unique into that space, but also the opportunity to know that some of the professional organizations, in this case, it could be bioengineering, let's say Biomedical Engineering Society, that could afford you a scholarship opportunity. So as mentioned, you definitely want to check with your student financial services what might be an option best suited for you internal to Northeastern. But then as you move and transition to being a grad student, you do have some potential for eligibility for graduate funding to be made available.
Thank you. So one of the options that is available for students that enroll in the +1 program, you are permitted to participate in up to 3 co-ops during your combined undergrad and graduate degree programs. You could, at the MS level, you're permitted to do 1 co-op only. So there is on the COE +1 webpage a tab now for the +1 Masters Co-op, and that gives more details about that. There is actually a video on there too from the coordinator from the department about the +1 Masters Co-op, which I encourage you to look at. But this also can be a great opportunity. There are policies and procedures, obviously, around applying for this, for the +1 Masters Co-op. And then, so once a student graduates with their BS degree, they transition to full-time graduate standing student. So the transition to the MS after BS completion must be initiated the following term. The only exception is right now we have students that are graduating in May and are matriculating into the MS program in the fall. And some are matriculating in the summer, and that is okay. But if you're graduating in the fall with your BS degree, you're expected to matriculate in the spring term to the MS program. So what does your MS year look like? It really is different for every student. Pratak gave an example, he talked a little, I mean, you can talk a little bit about your experience if you like. It's very flexible depending on what your goals are. And students complete a minimum of 4 courses in that graduate year to complete their MS degree. But it really depends how many courses you did complete when you were a BS student, and they're double counting. So it really is different for each student. And finally, just if you decide that when you come over to the MS program and you would like to do it part-time, you can do that, as long as there is not, you're not on a F1 student visa, because it's different. There's different visa requirements for international students. So, Pratak, would you like to say anything?
I mean, I think I'd just like to say that one of the benefits of the +1 program is that it's pretty much finishing a master's in half the time, and also you take the same number of courses, but since they're double counting, you sort of not putting any additional effort as an undergrad, as in it's not you going out of the way to take 4 additional courses. And also your undergraduate degree is completely independent of the graduate one. So even if you do enroll for it and decide to change paths at a later point, you can easily do it without it affecting your undergraduate course. And I think the workload is pretty manageable as well. It's nothing different than what you would as an undergrad. So I think it's a win-win.
Thank you. So yeah, it's good. So we can now open it for questions. One of the things I'd like to show folks before we get into the questions is the Graduate Student Services page, because that also shows how to get in touch with the graduate advising team. So if Laura, if you scroll down, you'll be able to click on the Boston campus advising. And this provides, for example, bioengineering. You'll see our email address for the academic advising team. And then you will also see the program contacts on there as well for the programs. So just so you have that information there. Also on this, I will also show the graduate forms as well. And that's just so you, and if you scroll down, yeah, just all the way down, I know. You'll see there is the +1 transition to MS application. Just so you know, that's where instructions are, and there is a sample form, and it does explain how the form is used. But I just wanted to point those out for folks. And then and understand that this process will be changing, but for now, this is what we're doing. And my final thing is I wanted to just let people know the other thing that is potentially we're working on is also expanding the +1 program to the global campus networks as well. But we have not, we're not there yet, but we're working on it. So I will open it up for questions. You can put them in the chat, and we can all help and respond to them.
Leslie, there's a question in the chat. It says, can I submit the DocuSign form if I am registered for a graduate course in the fall, or do I have to complete the course before completing the application?
Hold on. You can submit the form at that time. So the way it works right now with the application, it's a two-step process. You're submitting an initial application to be accepted into the PlusOne program. And then when you're in your final term of your BS degree, you're submitting another form to list the courses that you will be double counting towards your BS and MS degree. So it is okay to complete that form now, or complete the form while you're taking the graduate level course. So just to explain that, and then there is a question here about where do you find the COE department policies on course double counting?
Yes, I'm actually about to put that in the chat right now, the link. And so the policies that you will be held to are based off of when you apply for the program. So what you see now, and maybe if you apply in the next year, these policies may change a bit. So the requirements are based at the time of application of these programs. And I just put it into the chat now. And it's just to reference, it's all the way at the bottom of that particular page. And I think it's helpful to note that the department looks at the criteria every single year, and they ensure that the policy is fair and accurate representation of what each student needs to know for their undergraduate and their master's. So the policies are determined, the double counting policies rather, are determined by the actual departments and not by the advising teams.
There's a question about merit-based graduate scholarships.
Yeah, I
Again,
can take that. Unfortunately, there are no current merit-based graduate scholarships as it relates to the PlusOne program. Again, there are scholarships or fellowships that institutions award, typically to PhD students, and so that's a unique distinction. But as of right now, there are not identified merit-based graduate scholarships from the College of Engineering for the PlusOne program.
There's a question about taking additional graduate courses over the full-time load. At the graduate school level, eight semester hours is considered full-time. So that would be 2 4-credit courses a term. Some programs have allowed for 3 courses to be taken in a term. But if you want to take over what the maximum is allowed in the graduate program, there is a petition form that needs to be completed and submitted to the MS program contact for approval. And once they approve it, then the graduate school academic advising team will change your maximum credit hours to what the department has approved. So typically, and I'll just, typically students only will take 8 semester hours, and then if they want, they'll petition for 1 extra course to take, because that's about the maximum that you would be able to overload. Because it is, and Pratap might be able to talk a little bit about this in terms of the difference in course expectations versus the undergrad and the grad level.
I think it's not drastically different, but obviously in the graduate level, have to you have to devote a little more time. Like even though some of the courses are similar, like I took probability and statistics as an undergrad and as a grad student, but the course I took as a graduate student covers a little, actually some more topics, and it's also a little more in depth. So that's obviously there, but at the same time, you only take two courses as a graduate student, so you have enough time.
I see a question here about undergraduate students, if they have eligibility to take the 7,000 level courses as an undergraduate student. It is rare, but it has happened over the years. What is most important is that when you are reviewing your courses, to make sure you are looking at the prerequisites and the restrictions of each of the sections of courses you're looking at. Sometimes there may be only one section of a course, and sometimes there may be 2 or 3 sections of that same course. It's very important for you to look at those restrictions because some may say full grad student only. And at that point, those seats are reserved for the full-time grad students. So another expectation is that undergraduate students are taking their graduate level courses on ground too. And that's something also really important to look at when you're reviewing courses. So if there's a question about the restrictions when you're looking at a 5,000 or a 7,000 level course, there is a form on the graduate page that's up right now that students can use. And Laura, if you want to scroll up just a little bit, and maybe someone in the grad school could probably talk about this better than I can, but there is a form that you could submit, and it would be, your request would be reviewed by the program contact or whoever the appropriate person might be in that time. But there are restrictions and prerequisites posted for a reason. And so you are welcome to request an override, and it will be reviewed.
So the form that Crystal is referring to is the registration override request form, which Laura's got her cursor on. And there are instructions there for the override request. And that does include the +1 students as well as undergrad students. So the information is there. Is there any other questions or comments? Someone has their hand raised. Do we? Yeah, we? Yeah, I think it's, we're a small enough group. I think we can, would you? Is it Farhad?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so my question may be a bit specific, but in my department, double counting is only allowed for general electives. So let's say if I take classes that are part of the core classes for a +1 master's as a technical elective, that means they do not double count, but then what do I do once I'm in the master's program to satisfy the core classes?
So I can.
Do you want to take this, Crystal?
Sure. Thank you for your question. The policy is, as you saw, is outlined pertaining to each of the departments. If you were to take a course that at the undergrad level that satisfies a master's level requirement, but you use it as a technical elective, and your program does not permit that, unfortunately, that class wouldn't be able to double count. And so that's when I was talking about earlier, it's really important to have those communications and conversations with your advisor as soon as possible, so you can appropriately plan which courses you're going to take for general electives, which courses you're going to take for technical electives. And so the policy is there, and the faculty and the departments unfortunately cannot waive their policies. And so it's just really important that proper planning does happen earlier on so you avoid situations like this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you
You're
for asking the question.
So we're coming close to the end of our time, but I would like to just ask if you have a question, you can raise your hand or you can put it in the chat and we'll be happy to try to answer it. Farhad, do you have another question?
Yeah, this one is more general. So where can we find, for example, some kind of sessions with an advisor for a +1 program? Is there a website where we can book one-on-one sessions or some kind of drop-ins?
Well, it depends what the question is about the +1. So if you're just exploring the option, the first step is to talk to your undergrad advisor. And then if you want more specific information about the +1 pathway that you're interested in, I would suggest reaching out to the MS program contact that's listed on that +1 pathway page.
Mhm.
And then if you have questions about the application process, you can reach out to the grad school or your undergrad advisor may be able, depending on the question, may be able to answer as well. Does that help?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a good question. And I would encourage everyone to go to the if you're either to the COE +1 webpage, which is specific to the College of Engineering +1 pathways. And on that, there's lots of information on there, including how to get in touch with Pratap if you've got specific student questions. Everything is there. We will be putting this webinar on that page so people can access it. So, and then, like I said, I also had put in the chat the +1 pathways that are offered across all the different colleges at Northeastern as well. So as Crystal spoke to look at those opportunities as well. So I think I'm going to give a last call for any questions or if any of the panelists have any last minute thoughts or want to share out.
Actually, I just a tiny thing to add. If you already know what program you want to do your +1 in, what you can also do is try to reach out to the program contact, and because that is something I did. I reached out to Professor Himlona Palikan. I think she was the point of contact for engineering management back then. What that does is it helps you narrow down on courses, since there are a lot of courses you can take, but you're only allowed to take 8. I think if you are able to sort of share your ideas about what you want to do in the future and where you want your career to be pointed, they can help you narrow down courses and hopefully get you the right ones.
The only thing I'll add is the value proposition again of a master's, regardless of where you may end up choosing to pursue it, either while you're employed or currently we are emphasizing the +1. There are programs that companies have that are called LDP, Leadership Development Programs. And those LDPs, usually it's an engineering leadership development program or an operations leadership development program. They will be afforded those opportunities primarily for masters bearing employees. And so it opens up a wealth of options and opportunities that quickly positions you, and you're seen as a high potential employee going forward. And so you're able to preempt the fact that you're coming in with that master's and could be considered for those kind of leadership development programs that are available with different industries.
Well, if there's no more questions, we will wrap up, and I say thank you all for attending. Can the panelists just stay on for a minute? Yeah, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have more questions. And thank you all for being here tonight.